All season long, this has been one of the happiest places in baseball, and it was no different last night. In fact, early on, all signs pointed to yet another red-hot start. Jim Leland was running his club with a walk. And suddenly, down 3-0, the Pirates were walking the plank. But you know what they say about a full moon? Strange things happen. And they did. Suddenly, Sid Bream homers, and the contest is tied. And now it's the Reds backpedaling furiously and trailing 4-3. Heads-up defense by Pittsburgh in the ninth stopped Cincinnati's rally. And after the celebration, and as the Pirates walk off with the opener, the Reds will be coming from behind for the first time all season. So welcome to an afternoon baseball game in Cincinnati, Ohio. And as you can see, the city sure looks fine, but we can tell you today that on the inside, it sure doesn't feel good. But you know what does? When you're just a kid and your classmates are in school, and guess where you are? And that's where all of us kids are today, at Riverfront Stadium for Game 2 of the National League Championship Series, the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Cincinnati Reds. And hi again, everybody. I'm Pat O'Brien. Welcome to our CBS Sports continuing coverage of baseball's League Championship Series. We are in our New York studios where we'll follow the autumn action as the boys of summer pursue the pennants. Jack Buck and Tim McCarver will man the mics at Riverfront Stadium, and they'll join us in just a bit. But first, let's go right to work. The starting pitchers for Game 2 for the Pirates, 22-game winner Doug Drabek. He is a lock for the Cy Young Award, and the Reds will counter with lefty Tom Browning. And as we like to do sometimes, let's strike while the irony is hot. We flash back to June 1986, and Doug Drabek, then a Yankee, was making his first major league start. And folks, he was pitching a no-hitter into the 5th inning when the Orioles put 2 men on, and the manager came out to yank the young starter, and that manager was one Lou Piniella. Ironically, Drabek to this day credits Lou with giving him the confidence to become a successful pitcher. Meantime, Piniella's new team, the Reds, will send out a man who hurled not merely a no-hitter, but a perfect game 2 years ago. He's Tom Browning. And today, Browning will shoulder the responsibility of a crucial start. You know, in the minds of the Reds, crucial may not even be a strong enough word. They do not, folks, want to travel to Pittsburgh down 2-0, and that's a story. And of course, the way we cover stories around here is with our roving reporters at the ballparks. In this case, James Brown at Riverfront. Good day, James.
All right, Pat, how are you? I'm doing fine on this end. And you talk about being down 2 games. Pittsburgh would like nothing better than to send Cincinnati back down 2 games. As a matter of fact, Bobby Bonilla of Pittsburgh said it best when he said, hey, I really enjoy the city of Cincinnati, but the only way I want to come back after today is as a tourist. Well, on the Reds side, I talked to Barry Larkin, the team leader, and he was ever the company man, saying that being down 0-1 is nothing to panic about. We've met and overcome greater challenges during the season.
It was a good attitude after the game last night. Said we battled. We did battle. We didn't score many runs we didn't score any runs after the first inning, but the guys felt good about how we went out there and played, especially being our first playoff game with a young team. So, you know, only thing we can do now is go up, and you can't get any worse, I guess.
On the matter of not letting things get worse, Barry Larkin said he will be quicker today to react to situations where he thinks his involvement will be helpful. Like last night when he wanted to talk to Jose Rio, who he thought was focusing too much attention to a first base runner by the name of Barry Bonds. And of course, Rio subsequently gave up a game-time 2-run homer. The benefit of that hindsight will provide Barry Larkin with better foresight today. Let's go back to New York and Pat O'Brien.
All right, James, thank you. We'll see you this afternoon. And all may not be gloom and doom after all. The Reds have won 4 out of 6 this year at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh. When we come back, a fall frolic in Fenway as our coverage of baseball's league championship rolls on from the Hudson to the Ohio. Here on CBS. Stay with us.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1990 National League Championship Series is brought to you by the companies of the Prudential. Come to the Prudential and build your future on the Rock. And by Bases Loaded 2 second season for Nintendo. Action so real it puts you right in the game.
They're getting closer to game time in Cincinnati. But this afternoon, the Pirates and the Reds are not the only ball players who are busy. Because up in sunny, scenic New England, the Oakland A's and the Boston Red Sox are behind closed doors preparing for their American League Championship Series. And our man Jim Cott is standing by now in the Red Sox locker room. And good day, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, Pat. Kind of a nice atmosphere here today before Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. Rather relaxed. Both teams had a chance to take some batting practice. In fact, Jose Canseco tried out a new pink bat. He says it's a little too slippery for game action. But on a more serious note, of course, is the condition of his back. And I had a chance to ask him how that back is.
The condition right now is a lot better than previous. I had a cortisone shot about 8 days ago, and it's a lot better. I was playing the time before that probably at 50%. I'm about 80 to 85% right now. Bat speed feels a little bit quicker. I feel a little bit stronger on the right side. My legs feel a whole lot better, so it's enabled me to play up to my abilities close anyways.
Well, and another key figure in this series with a bad back is Wade Boggs, Boston third baseman, visiting with us now. And tell us about the condition of your back, similar to Canseco's.
Well, it's a pulled muscle in the upper part of the buttocks and or rear end, however you want to say it. But I got a shot 2 nights ago, and really, when you don't have the adrenaline flowing like in the workout today, it sort of hampers you a little bit. But once the adrenaline starts flowing, hopefully it'll be fine.
Nice shades, but let's talk about facing Dave Stewart tonight. Tomorrow night? What kind of a challenge is that?
Well, Dave's always a challenge. He's one of the premier pitchers in the game, and the thing I like about facing Dave Stewart is he challenges people, and there's really no finesse, there's no trickery or anything like that. Dave says, here's my best stuff, and if you hit it, fine. If you don't, then I'm the better pitcher, and that's what's enjoyable about facing a Dave Stewart.
Well, we're going to see how enjoyable it is tomorrow night for the Red Sox. Game 1 tomorrow night, Pat.
All right, Jim, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow night. And scheduled starters, who could ask for more than Dave Stewart against Roger Clemens? On deck, how about we all go out to the ballpark? And we will, after word from your local station. Stay with us. Getting close to the first pitch in Cincinnati. And, you know, earlier we were chatting about this whole idea of kids playing hooky, an idea we don't condone, at least not too often. But Jack Buck will tell you that going to the ballpark is a pretty decent extracurricular activity. Good afternoon, Jack.
How you doing, Pat O'Brien? And folks, good afternoon. It's a lovely day here in Cincinnati. You know, losing a ball game is one thing. When you give away the winning run, it hurts even more. Last night, 7th inning, 2 on, 2 out. Andy Van Slyke hit a fly ball to left. Eric Davis misplayed it. Ground rule double, and what proved to be the winning run scored. We chatted with Eric Davis when he arrived at the park this morning.
It was a situation where you're just protecting against the base hit to try to get the guy who was a fast guy on second base, read his runs real well. So I was cheating in a little bit. And he hit it harder than I anticipated. It looked like he inside out at the ball, and it just carried further than I expected. I misjudged.
So even Eric Davis says that he blew the play, yet Cincinnati had a chance to win the game in the 9th inning, Tim McCarver.
They actually had several chances, Jack, with the Pittsburgh Pirates up by 1 run, the score 4-3. Ron Oster, the pinch hitter with runners on first and second, Bob Patterson on the mound. Now the key to this play, as far as Oster was concerned, have Jeff King field the ball. Jeff King, on the other hand, a tough play. He's got to make sure that Patterson feels the ball. So he takes 2 steps in, comes back to the bag, and they nail Todd Bensinger, for the first out. Now 1 out. Eric Davis at second base. Young Bill Bates, the pinch runner, at first base. Now the double steal will be on. Sabo, the batter, the count 0-1. Watch Sid Bream. By him coming in, it makes Bates, the young base runner, go back just a hair, thereby not giving him a good jump when he goes to second base. And he's an easy target for Mike LaValliere, who pre-planned this throw to Jose Lean. Sabo, a strikeout victim, and the Reds lose it. But coming up next, renewed life as Doug Drabek faces Tom Browning.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1990 National League Championship Series is brought to you by Toyota's quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Sears, where you get your money's worth and a whole lot more. And by AT&T, the right choice.
The Cincinnati ball club needs some fan support this afternoon and a victory over the Pirates. They're down 1-0, and they depend on Tom Browning, a 15-game winner, a record of 15-9, an earned run average of 3.80, and he is a fast worker.
He really keeps the defense on their toes. And speaking of the defense, I guess it's appropriate to say Eric Davis will start in left field this afternoon. Jack was talking about the Pofa in left last night. Herm Winningham in center field. Paul O'Neill over in right field. Chris Sabo, the third baseman. Barry Larkin at shortstop. Mariano Duncan, the second baseman. Rookie Hal Morris once again at first base. 2 hits last night. Joe Oliver, the catcher, and he'll be catching Tom Browning.
Here's the batting order for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Former Cincinnati player Gary Reedus is playing first base. Jay Bell at short. Andy Van Slyke in center. Bobby Bonilla in right. Barry Bonds in left. Jeff King starts at third. Don Slott starts behind the plate. Jose Lean at second base, and Doug Drabek will be the pitcher for Pittsburgh.
I guess Po Fa was the first foul pole of the afternoon, right?
The leadoff batter is Gary Reedus. He got a big pinch hit last night. And he scored what proved to be the winning run. First pitch of this one. And it is ball 1. The shadows creeping across the field, and it'll be a problem for the batters, more so a little later on. Now that's ball 2 from Browning. One thing about Browning, when he gets you out or when he walks you or gives up a hit, it all happens in a hurry. Now the batter steps out and slows him down. It'll be Reedus, Jay Bell, and Andy Van Slyke here in the first. And now a strike. Check these shadows, and they'll be getting worse for the batters as the afternoon wears on. Gary Reedus leading it off. Browning behind on the count. And pumps one in there, 2-2. Lou Piniella, the manager of the Reds, he was in good spirits this morning. And across the way, in even better spirits this morning, Jim Leyland.
With good reason. He has his ace going today and is 1 up.
And the 2-2 pitch. And a base hit off past the glove of the third baseman. Eric Davis gets it back, and Reedus hangs on. So that's the way this one starts, with a base hit by Gary Reedus. So he burned his former teammates.
High fastball. 5 straight fastballs, as a matter of fact, from Tom Browning. Browning features a breaking ball fastball. His best pitch to right-handers, the screwball. We talked to Jim Leyland before the ball game, by the way. He said, yesterday I told you Jay Bell would be bunting in the first inning. Today he's not bunting in the first inning with Reedus at first.
Here is a swing and a foul. So Bell got something to swing at, as the Reds fully expected the bunt. You didn't tell Cincinnati, did you?
No, I did.
Leadoff hit by Gary Reedus. He swiped 11 bases during the year, and Jay Bell, a .254 hitter during the season, will try to move him along. And a throw by Browning. Browning does not have a particularly good pickoff move for a left-hander.
I don't think you're as inclined to waste an at-bat with Jay Bell against a left-hander with speed at first. He can steal the base. With Wally Backman batting in front of Bell, Wally doesn't run as well as he used to, so Bell more inclined to sacrifice in the first, but not here.
Reedus with a fair-sized lead. And a strike in there to Jay Bell. You could see Reedus trying to time the delivery of Browning and get a running start from first, but he couldn't do it. Browning brings it to the plate very quickly. 0-2. And low for a ball.
That was a screwball to Bell, the first that Browning has thrown. That's his real out pitch. He sets up that pitch with the fastball. And there's the screwball, usually out of the strike zone.
Lead by Reedus and a throw over there as Browning stepped off. Well, last night it was Cincinnati with 3 in the first. Pirates put their leadoff man on in the first here this afternoon. They play Bell to hit to the opposite field. He'll be trying to do that if he can. And he hits it up the middle. That's a base hit. Reedus will stop at second as Winningham gets it back. So the first 2 have singled, and things look gloomy here early in Cincinnati for the Reds.
Another screwball to Jay Bell, and boy, his head was right on that pitch. That's the only way you're going to hit that screwball away. Keep the head down, the shoulder in, and Bell takes it right back through the originator.
So a couple of lesser hitters get base hits for the Pirates, and now the big boys are up there. Andy Van Slyke. He hit the ball over the head of Eric Davis last night. 2 on and nobody out. Ball 1. There was a time when Andy didn't play against all left-handers. They platooned him a bit. But he had a hot September. Reedus started it with a single. And he's at second. And Bell is at first. Van Slyke the batter. 17 home runs for Andy during the season. And he hits the ball foul into right, and he hit it hard. Brother, it's difficult to see the ball coming off the bat with the shadows as they are on this playing field.
And one would suspect that it will only get worse. Van Slyke shouldn't have as much of a problem with Browning as he does with most left-handers, because Browning is the type of pitcher that throws over the top. He doesn't drop down to left-handed hitters as much as some left-handers do.
Might be tough for these fielders to see the ball coming off the bat. 2 on, nobody out. And Van Slyke pops it in the air to right, and Paul O'Neill circles to it. Reedus is going to tag, and he's going to try, and he makes it. First and third with 1 out. Reedus was pretty cool running the bases, moved on to third base on the fly ball by Van Slyke, who at least advanced 1 runner.
I know exactly what you mean. He kind of walked back to second as though he wasn't going, and then when O'Neill made the catch, he darted toward third without a play.
And a big RBI opportunity now for the number 4 hitter, Bobby Bonilla, switch hitter. He is better from the left side than the right side, but formidable from each side of the plate. Strike called, and Browning needs a strikeout, a pop-up, or a double play. Bonilla is 12 out of 31 against Browning and has hit 5 home runs against this pitcher during his career. First and third, 1 out, 1-1. Chance for the Pirates to get a big start here. Gary Reedus on at third, a very good runner. And Jay Bell is the man at first. He swiped 10 bases this season. O'Neill watches one sink low and away, 2-1. And a throw by Oliver down to first. O'Neill gets plenty to swing at because of the on-deck man. He wants at least a fly ball. And he pops it up, foul, and there is a play. What a big out that is as Hal Morris makes the catch. 2 on, 2 out. And the Reds need a lift of some sort, and they'll get it if Browning can retire Bonds.
Big out by Browning with the count 2 balls and a strike. He comes inside challenging Bobby Bonilla. And Bonilla cannot get the bad head out and hits a little meek fly ball to Hal Morrison, foul territory. So 2 outs, and that was indeed a big out.
Now it is Barry Bonds, and he swung right through it. Bonds has had 10 hits and a .400 average against Browning. 33 home runs overall, and during his career, 4 home runs against this pitcher. They play him deep and a little to the right. And a strike on the corner makes it strike 2. I'm telling you that if Cincinnati gets this third out without the run scoring, they're going to be up on the ceiling after losing last night 4-3. Browning in a hurry, and Bonds takes the pitch inside. Ooh, says the crowd.
That's part of Browning's arsenal, coming inside to hitters. He will push you back away from the plate.
He's working up a sweat already. First and third, 2 out, first inning. Struck him out. 2 hits, 2 left. It could have been bad. It turned out to be great for Cincinnati. We're down by the Ohio, and a sellout crowd here at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Tom Browning worked up a sweat in that first half inning, gave up 2 hits but got out of it. His counterpart is Doug Drabek, a 22-game winner during the season. A very methodical, workmanlike performer and very effective. Here's the lineup for Cincinnati. Barry Larkin at short, Herm Winningham in center, Paul O'Neill in right, Eric Davis in left, Hal Morris at first, Chris Sabo at third, Joe Oliver the catcher, Mariano Duncan at second base, and Browning hitting the 9th spot. And the leadoff batter is Barry Larkin. He was 0 for 2 with a couple of walks last night. Breaking ball misses. Don't you think, Tim, that these batters are already having a problem with the shadows on the field?
Yes, I do, absolutely. You don't see those types of swings from Bonilla and Bonds often.
Now Drabek to Larkin, and that's low for ball 2. From our Goodyear blimp, you can see those shadows a little better as they creep across not only the home plate area, but the entire playing field. Drabek throws low, ball 3. Drabek was a winner last Sunday, pitching 9 innings as Pittsburgh nailed down the Eastern Division crown. Ball 4, and Larkin walks.
Defensively for the Pirates, Barry Bonds in left field, Andy Van Slyke in center. Bobby Bonilla, an error in last night's game, but also a good play. Jeff King at third base, Jay Bell the shortstop, Jose Leaned at second. Gary Reedus is not as good a defensive first baseman as Sid Bream. Don Slaught behind the plate, and Drabek pitching.
Lou Piniella told us he was not going to bunt early as he did last night. He has a good bunter and a good runner at the plate in Herm Winningham.
And he also has a right-handed pitcher, left-handed batter combo where Winningham can use the hole on the right side. So don't look for Winningham to be bunting early, but you could see a hit and run if Winningham has a favorable count.
That's what Piniella intimated. There goes the runner. Outside, the throw. Safe at second base. On the tag by Bell. Larkin stole one last night.
I'll tell you, it's risky to run on the first pitch when the pitcher has just thrown 4 straight balls to the leadoff batter. If this pitch were a strike and Larkin is thrown out, then in effect you've allowed the pitcher a break and an out without ever throwing a strike. 4 straight balls to Larkin, but he's in there.
And a late tag by Bell, and now Winningham's job is to move Larkin away from second or drive him home. And he tried to bunt and he fouled the ball, making it 1-1. He was bunting for a base hit.
Trying to take the ball with him, trying to take it to the right side. and he either has a base hit or Larkin ends up on third base. This is not a sacrifice. Winningham trying to take the curveball with him, but he fouls it off.
And you saw that Winningham is 6 out of 18 against this pitcher.
One of the reasons he's starting today.
Larkin leads the way at second, nobody out. No score, first inning. Winningham chops it foul. He's in the hole, 1-2. Both of these managers rely heavily these days on computer statistics. We're at Riverfront Stadium, Cincinnati. The Pirates put 2 on in the first, but left them on. The Reds have their leadoff man on at second with nobody out, and Winningham the batter. Tim McCarver and Jack Buck with you from Cincinnati. And he did pull the ball, and he gets a base hit in the process, and Larkin stops at third. First and third, nobody out. He tomahawked that ball.
Draybeck got ahead with curveballs, but now he hangs a curveball to Herm Winningham. You mentioned 6 for 18 for his career, and he really jumped all over that hanging breaking ball. But because he hit it so sharply, Larkin had to hold up at third base.
And particularly with nobody out. That brings a visit to the mound. Jim Leland had to go out in the first inning last night and talk with Bob Walk. He has to do the same thing with Draybeck here.
I think he's got a different message right here with Draybeck. He's probably telling him to pitch like there's just a man at first base. Gene Mock used to do that. Runner at third early in the ball game, nobody out. Forget the runner at third base. If you're concerned too much about the runner at third, then you open up a big inning. Try for the double play ball right here.
The winner last night was Bob Walk, and he is feeling comfortable. He gave up 3 in the first, but hung in there long enough to get the victory. And these Pirates do score runs. Here's Paul O'Neill hitting third tonight. First and third, and nobody out. Infield is back at second and short. O'Neill takes ball 1 from Draybeck. O'Neill hit 16 homers during the season. He can go the other way, but in this circumstance, he wants to pull the ball. Draybeck wants the opposite. And a foul goes out of play. These Pirates had better watch the runner, Winningham. He's stolen 6 bases this year. He's over at first base. And he's only been a part-time player, but he can fly.
He can, but with nobody out, it's a bad play to be running right here. You've got a left-handed hitter. You want the left-hander to use the hole. If you're thrown out with nobody out, it's really a bad play. So if he does run, he's got to be sure.
Draybeck checks him. O'Neill misses it. We've seen a lot of early swinging strikes because of these shadows.
This is a high-riding fastball, one of 4 pitches that Draybeck features: a curveball, a slider, a changeup. He changes speeds on his curve, slider, and fastball.
Draybeck can strike people out. That's what he's striving for here. And O'Neill hits it into right field, and that ball is a base hit, and Cincinnati leads. Winningham goes to third with good base running. 1-0 Cincinnati.
Only a guy like Chico Lean can make this play close. He has tremendous range. This ball does not have a lot of hang time. Chico Lean makes it close, but that's what makes Winningham's play a particularly good play, because it was that close. He took a chance and it worked. Good base running by Winningham.
And because Winningham was at first, Lean was cheating towards second, and that ball was unreachable. And now here's Eric Davis, and he'd like to do something big. First and third again, nobody out. And it almost struck him. Boo, say the fans. Ball 1. Curveball got away from Draybeck.
Yeah, that was a breaking ball. Anytime a pitcher is hit hard, not that Draybeck has been hit hard, but the walk and the 2 hits, and if you come close to a hitter and you're in their park, they think you're throwing at them. Overreaction by fans, managers, and umpires in baseball nowadays.
Larkin perched on the bench. He scored the first run of this game. Eric Davis waiting. That's ball 2 from Draybeck, who has a struggling first inning. Pay attention to the location of the hands of Eric Davis when he bats. You don't see many who hold the bat in that position.
Looks like he's standing at a bus stop trying to open an umbrella.
Breaking ball. He had a good swing and fouled it back. 2-1.
I don't think any hitter in the National League holds his bat as low as Eric Davis. You try to pitch him above the hands. Anything below those hands, he is lethal. Breaking balls in the strike zone. We talked about it last night. The Pirates try to pitch him up and in and breaking balls away.
2 balls and a strike. 3-1. Davis hit 24 home runs, but people don't believe he had a particularly good year. Three and 1 the count. Jim Leyland looking on. He's already trailing 1-0. Runner going. Strike. And a delayed throw by Slaught. He should have thrown it right away. And it's second and third with nobody out.
You remember last night on the 3-2 pitch with Davis hitting, nobody out, we talked about a quick call by the umpire. That's all a catcher wants. And John McSherry with the delayed call back there. No, he called it pretty quickly. But I think Don Slaught may have had the ball hung up in the web a little bit. So he did indeed get a quick call by McSherry, but that ball hung up in the web. He couldn't get it out.
And it's 3-2 to Eric Davis. Second and third, nobody out. And a foul. He just got a piece of that one. Reds already lead 1-0, and Draybeck is having a tough time getting putouts. At third base, it is the speedy Herm Winningham. And Paul O'Neill, who just stole his 14th base of the season, is on at second. Infielders are back at second and short. Davis strikes out. That's the first out of the inning. And Draybeck got a low pitch past him.
Talked about pitching him below the hands. He did. Usually that's lethal and probably indicative of the bad year that Eric Davis had. And they're going to walk Hal Morris to get to Chris Sabo, who ended the game last night with a strikeout.
We have James Brown down on the playing field, and I'm sure that James is going to check with some of these hitters and ask how difficult it is to see the ball from the pitcher because of the shadows. They're going to walk Hal Morris. It'll be the second pass given by Draybeck. And it will load the bases for the right-handed hitter, Chris Sabo. There is Sabo, who made the last out in last night's game. Pitching coach Ray Miller saying, "Come on, Doug, let's go. Get him." And Pinello wants more than 1 run. 2 hits, 2 walks in the inning. Is this heaven, Lou? Chris Sabo, the leading home run hitter on the Cincinnati club this year with 25. Bases loaded, 1 out. Strike, and the Pirates would be tickled to get out of this inning with only 1 run scored. Long, tough first inning for each pitcher. Pirates left 2 on and failed to score. The Reds lead 1-0, have the bases loaded, 1 out. Up the middle to the pitcher. He got the force out. Bases loaded, 2 out, and a good fielding play by Draybeck. Missed the double play, but got the runner.
Ball wasn't hit sharply enough, and I think it hit off the heel of the glove of Draybeck. He's prepared to make the play. Nope, hit off the webbing of the glove, knocks it down, and now he takes his time and just gets 1. You can see how deliberate he was in making the throw to Don Slaught, knowing the double play wasn't possible.
The Cincinnati catcher, Joe Oliver, batted .231 during the year with 8 home runs. Base hit loaded, 2 out. And strike 1. Looks like he took a little off that pitch. Oliver way out in front. Oliver drove in 52 as a part-time catcher, along with Jeff Reed. Graybeck's almost out of this jam. Strike 2 on the foul by Joe Oliver. These hitters, I'm certain, will be happy when those shadows move past the pitching mound. Base hit loaded, 2 out. No balls, 2 strikes. The count to Oliver. And he got him. And Graybeck gets his second strikeout, and the Reds lead 3. But after 1, they're on top, 1-0. For the second game in a row, Cincinnati breaks on top, this time with 1 run. A view of the downtown Cincinnati area. And the youngster enjoying the game. Yet another on a lovely day, plenty of sunshine. And lunch at the ballpark, late lunch. Jeff King leads it off, and Tom Browning drops one in there. We're underway in the second inning. King starting at third base. He had 14 home runs this year. Browning bounces one up there, 1-1. Browning gave up 2 hits in the first inning, but caused the Pirates to leave those runners stranded. And he misses inside, 2-1.
Both teams probably can't believe that this is a 1-0 ball game. Both Browning and Graybeck pitching out of major trouble in the first inning.
King takes it high and away. There's Graybeck. He had his work in the first inning.
Had runners at second and third. Eric Davis, the batter. No outs. He struck out Davis, walked Morris, and then got Sabo and Oliver.
Strike makes it 3-2. Browning will work just as rapidly as the hitter will allow. And a foul. That would have been ball 4. It struck the bat. 3-2.
That's a very interesting point that you just made. What you have to do against Tom Browning is you got to slow him down. And the way to slow him down, get in the box, step out, get in the box, vary your pattern. Don't work to his rhythm, work to yours if you're a hitter.
And the ball is popped foul out of play. 3-2 on the leadoff hitter in the second. When a team wins the first 2 games in the series, they have won the series 33 out of 43, 77%. And when they've won the first 2 on the road, it's 10 out of 12 times. Now ball 4 to King, and Browning heads for more trouble. A leadoff walk, his first of the day. Morris will hold against the runner. And Don Slott, the batter, hit an even 300 during the season with 4 home runs.
You can do a lot of things here. If you're Jim Leland, the manager, you can hit and run. King with not a lot of speed, but that's not one of the prerequisites.
Slott hits it foul back here. Strike 1.
Ideal hit and run elements: a pitcher that throws strikes, and Browning does, a hitter that makes contact, and Slott does, and then the runner at first base. Those are the 2 primary elements. The speed of the runner at first base, not that important, because it's up to the hitter to put the ball in play.
1-0 Cincinnati, and the high outside pitch to Slott. He checks with the third base coach. And let's see if the Pirates have something on, even though they trail 1-0. Foul ball makes it 1-2, and he didn't get a good swing at all against Browning. Gene Lamont is the third base coach for Pittsburgh. This fella hit a home run in his first at-bat in the major leagues. Gene Lamont, he's giving the signs.
Only
1-2 the count.
Only 61 players have done that. Chuck Tanner, the ex-manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, did that, as a matter of fact. The home run is first at bat.
Runner not going, and the pitch inside. 2-2.
I wouldn't think anything would be on here. If this pitch is a ball, then you can expect to see King run, but not 2-2 with nobody out.
And he draws the throw from Browning. Al Morris returns it. Tommy Sant is the other coach at first base.
Tom Browning does not have a good move to first base, but he does throw over often, and the fact that he's a left-hander helps him.
Another foul by Slot. In fact, we saw Browning working on the pickoff move in the bullpen here the other night.
2 days ago, working on it with Stan Williams, the pitching coach.
Pretty late in the year to try to refine something of that sort. There is Stan Williams.
Pretty late in the year, after 35 starts, Tom Browning leading the National League, tied actually for starts. He led the National League last year in starts and the year before with 37.
Runner at first, nobody out, and the pitch is low. Throw to first, nothing doing. 3-2, and the runner will likely go. Leadoff walk to Jeff King. He is running, and a pop foul, a pop fly into right. That's fair for O'Neill, and the runner back to first. And we have an update from New York from Pat O'Brien. This is the news report with regard to the NFL.
That's right, Jack, updating another Cincinnati story involving the NFL Bengals head coach Sam Wyche. He has been fined close to $30,000 today by Commissioner Paul Tagliabue. This is the largest fine for a coach in NFL history. On Monday, Wyche denied a woman reporter access to the locker room. That's a violation. NFL making a statement today. Back to Jack.
That is mucho dinero. Now the batter is Chico Lean to Jose. And ball one from Browning. Lean had an RBI triple last night. He's a pesky little number 8 hitter.
It's a ball primarily to right field. He will, however, pull breaking balls.
Browning flips it to first. None of those throws over there have been close. King stole only 3 bases this year. Pirates batting in the second, trailing 1-0. Browning stepping off, trying a little bit of everything to keep the runner close. Browning doesn't throw the double play ball very often. The pitch goes low, and that's ball 2.
Only 6 times this year has Tom Browning had a ground ball double play ball. About 1 every 27 chances. The only one with a higher rate, Sid Fernandez of the New York Mets. He's a fly ball pitcher all the way.
1 on, 1 out. Ball 3 to Chico Lean. 3-0. And the pitcher will be batting next. And a look at the scene from the Goodyear blimp. 1 on, 1 out. He missed with it. That's ball 4, the second walk of the inning by the left-hander. And Pinella shows concern. The Pittsburgh batter coming up, being spoken to by Gene Lamont, is the pitcher, Doug Drabek, and he had 18 hits during the year, so he is not to be disregarded, and he hit a home run.
Second to Fernando Valenzuela, the Dodgers. Valenzuela had 19 when he pitched. He had 2 more as a pinch hitter. So Doug Drabek handles the bat well, and the one thing he will do, he'll square around showing bunt and then swing away. We'll see how the Reds play it. I think you ought to play it straight up here. Just try to get 1 out.
The Reds have to guard against the bunt. That was close. The throw just a little off the beam, and a good effort by Larkin back there. That was rather close. 2 walks in the inning. King, the runner at second. Another pickoff. Got him. King comes up howling. Dutch Renner called him out. He had him taking a step in the wrong direction. That's the second out of the inning, and they have the pitcher at the plate, and that hurt.
One of the top pop hits out now is the king of wishful thinking. And I'm sure that Jeff King wishes he would have stayed at second base and not been leaning toward third base. He may have had a hand in there, but the ball beat him. A good play and a good quick tag by Barry Larkin.
Quick tag is right. That's what made the play and brought the call. Well, the other runner leaned as at first with 2 out.
You know, Jack, that throw was similar to the throw that Browning made before that. It was to the right field side. Larkin caught it and then made that quick tag coming back.
Now the pitch to Drabek, and he throws the bat as he fouls the ball, and it's strike 1. Score 1-0. Cincinnati on top here in the second, and the pickoff play changed this inning. Drabek had a big swing, strike 2 on the foul. Browning has thrown a lot of pitches here in the first 2 innings. And he has had only 2 complete games this season. Foul ball near the stands, and Sabo over there, and nothing doing. It stays 0-2. You see a lot of the folks wearing red in support of their ball club here. The Pirate fans will get a chance to cheer come Monday in a 3 o'clock game Eastern time. There's a Pirate fan who made the trip down the river to Cincinnati. Two to Drabek. Browning's out of this inning. He picks up his second strikeout. Pittsburgh has now left 3, and they trail 1-0.
You hear so often about the daylight play. What is it? There's the daylight that Tom Browning saw. He knew Barry Larkin had a jump on Jeff King, and that's why he threw to second. And it made the difference between night and day in that inning. Still 1-0 Cincinnati.
Jim Leland is out at the third base area. He's talking with Jeff King. And King might be injured. Probably is. So Bonilla is going to come in and play third base, and we'll need a new right fielder. So Bonilla will be positioned at third base, probably change gloves. And R.J. Reynolds is going to go out into right field. We'll get word with regard to the problem with Jeff King.
Interesting point. Bobby Bonilla changing gloves because an outfielder's glove is much bigger than an infielder's glove, and that's why he's changing gloves. They're shaped alike, but the infielder's glove is much, much bigger than the outfielder's glove. R.J. Reynolds will be the new right fielder.
And he'll bat in King's spot. So we'll find out what happened when King was picked off at second base. Let's join James Brown at this point. JB?
All right, Jack, I'm standing here with Ken Griffey Sr., although he doesn't like me calling him that. He's been with the was with the Reds for 12 years. Jack, Buck, and Tim McCarver talked about the shadows that the batters had to deal with in the first inning. How difficult when you got a half shadow in the field?
Well, when it's halfway between home and the pitcher's mound, it has a tendency to your eyes have to adjust real quickly on it. You have the bright light on the pitcher, and then the ball comes out. You see a bright spot, and then all of a sudden it goes dark on you. And it's kind of difficult to see and try to make that adjustment as quick as possible.
Now, even under those conditions in the first inning, the Reds did well, so I assume it's going to be even better for them because they'll be able to see better now.
Well, I hope so. You know, they can probably pick up the ball a lot better now.
A lot of the players are wearing number 30 inscribed on the back of their caps in tribute to this man. Again, as I mentioned, who was with the organization for 12 years. A real tribute. Do you feel strange being back in the city and around an organization that let you go?
Well, not really. I mean, it happened to me once before when I went to the Yankees, but it's just a good feeling that you got guys like these guys here that feel that, makes me feel that good that they think about me like that. And, you know, it's a deep honor for me.
Ken Griffey Sr. Let's get back upstairs to Jack and Tim.
And Mariano Duncan shows a bunt and takes ball one from Doug Drabek. Drabek gave up 2 hits and a couple of walks in the first and 1 run with it. Duncan batting in the 8th spot. And he does bunt foul, and that evens the count 1-1.
Tell you, that is an excellent play right there. The Reds realize that Bobby Bonilla's had problems playing third base. 3 errors this year in 14 games, 35 last year, 32 in 1988, and that's why they moved him to right field. And now he's in at third base, and Mariano Duncan trying to take advantage of it.
And now Duncan hits a foul. He's in the hole. That's a dirty trick, if you ask me. The guy just comes into the game and they try to put a bunt down on him. In fact, Bonilla gave Duncan a little bit of a look. Don't tell Bonilla that he is not a good third baseman, because he'll tell you he can play there. Duncan hits it to deep short. Jay Bell. Good throw. Got him. 1 out. He's playing a strong arm from the hole. 1 gone. Bonilla always has a smile on his face, Tim. Always.
He really does. Loves to play the game. Some players just exude that enthusiasm, and Bobby Bonilla is one of them.
So the leadoff man is gone in the Cincinnati second, and Browning is up. He's not a very good hitter. He had 7 hits during the season and takes a strike. And Drabek's back to his usual trait, which is getting ahead on the count. It's a big part of his pitching. And a chopper makes it strike 2. They have a great day tomorrow on CBS with some college football. Number 2, Florida State against Miami. They're ranked 10, and they'll be in the Orange Bowl at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. That's bound to be a good one, and that's followed by Game 1 of the American League Championship playoff. And look at that pitching pairing. Dave Stewart and Roger Clemens. So Florida State and Miami, and then Boston and Oakland. Down on strikes is Browning for the 3rd strikeout for Drabek. He's going to be tough from here on out. First 2 are gone.
You mentioned Drabek staying ahead in this inning. He walked the first batter of the game, and that's why it's 1-0 Cincinnati. Drabek rarely does that. 76% of the time this year, he has retired the first hitter in the inning.
There's his pitching coach, Ray Miller.
Baseball's a game of first. Get the first strike, first out, first run.
And Larkin tried to bunt one on Bonilla. They are intent on doing that. Larkin drew a walk his first time, stole a base, and scored a run, driven in by Paul O'Neill.
Not as good a play to bunt for a base hit with 2 outs and nobody on, but the thing that adds to Larkin's intent there, he's got the possibility of stealing a base. 1 last night, 1 this afternoon.
And when he's not bunting, he has the possibility of hitting a home run. He hit 7 this year. He hits it back to Drabek, and down go the Reds. 1-2-3 after 2 innings. Cincinnati leads it 1-0. From the Goodyear Blimp America, piloted by Captain Don McDuff of Anson, Texas, we have this view of Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati on the Ohio River, and the Goodyear Blimp. We go into the 3rd inning of the game, top of the order for the Pirates. Reedus singled his first time up and was left on. The Pirates put their first 2 on in the 1st inning, but couldn't break through against Tom Browning. Hits are even. Cincinnati has the only run. Ball 1 high. You'll get to know a little bit more about this fellow as we go along from Perrysburg, Ohio. That's near Toledo. Jim Leyland, the Pirate manager. Jerry Glanville, the Atlanta coach, is from the same hometown and the same high school.
You know what Leyland loves to talk about? Guarding Larry Bird when they were both seniors.
But he didn't do a very good job.
Oh, he said he did a whale of a job till he sprained his ankle late in the game, and then Bird got a game-winning shot off.
Well, he's the only one who ever did it, I tell you that.
That's right.
3-0 to the leadoff hitter. You see Leland's ledger there. He's been very successful. There's the strike. In 88, they came close, so people thought in 89 the Pirates were ready, but they weren't. The injuries killed them, but he hung them back together. They acquired some key players, and look where they are. Reedus takes a walk, and the leadoff man has been on base in all 3 innings for the Pirates. Second inning in a row that Browning has walked the leadoff hitter. Here comes Stan Williams. He doesn't like that. Now I wonder, Tim, if we'll see Bell bunt here in the 3rd inning. He didn't in the 1st.
Well, he got
the opportunity.
Yeah, and he got a base hit. I don't think so. Jay Bell has 39 sacrifices on the season. With Reedus at first base, good speed, 290 career stolen bases. He still runs very well. Bell with a base hit the first time up. I think you give up an out to tie it on the road, even though it is only the 3rd inning. Bell had the base hit. Pretty good hitter. 254 on the season. He does strike out a lot, but most of those, he led the Pirates in strikeouts with 109, but most of those against right-handed pitching.
Bell singled his first time. And Reedus, of course, is a threat to steal. Now Morris holds against him. Browning throws over.
A lot of times if a pitcher is trying to decide whether a team's going to bunt against him or not, he'll throw to first a couple of times. He'll step off a couple of times, try to get the hitter to commit.
And he almost had Reedus going the other direction. Today, the Reds have their better throwing catcher, Joe Oliver, in the lineup. I really admire him. He started in '83, didn't get up to the big leagues until last year.
Fastball away. Here he's bunting.
And he took a strike. We were just showing the bunt.
Yeah,
we'll find out about that.
That's an excellent point. Get Chris Sabo and Barry Larkin. When you show the bunch, you get the infielders to move around. You get them to think about a sacrifice. And then if you switch it and put the hit and run on, you got the infield moving around. That's why you do it.
Browning throws to first again. And Bell showed the bunt on the throw to first. Should be more comfortable with regard to the shadows on the playing field. The runner going. Oliver got him. Perfect throw on the money, and again the quick tag by Larkin. Well, Pittsburgh has lost 2 runners today.
Tom Browning dancing through the raindrops. He picked off 1 runner, and now this fine throw by Joe Oliver, the catcher, nails Gary Reedus. Fine throw and another quick tag.
Now Jay Bell hits it into right field. Paul O'Neill will hold him to 1 base. So things aren't quite in sync for the Pirates. They lose a runner and then a base hit. And that always makes you say, darn it. That for the Pirates is their 3rd hit of the afternoon. They're loose in that Pirate dugout. I tell you, this is a loose club.
Very, very confident ball club. Ended strong, winning on the 7th in a row, 10 of 11. They clinched it in St. Louis last Sunday. Drabek, the pitcher. Then they won 1 of 3 against the Mets to end the season, but those games insignificant.
Van Slyke is decked, ball 1.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Tom Browning, Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble, these Cincinnati Reds pitchers have reputations of knocking guys down, and they'll do it in a minute. If they get hit hard, they're going to knock a guy off the plate, knock him down to try to maintain that outside part of the plate.
We get word about Jeff King, who had to leave the game. He has a bruised lower back. On that tag play at second. And Slyke Pops it high for the shortstop, Larkin. Fights the sun and makes the catch for the second out. Larkin doesn't make many mistakes. 2 out. Needed those sunglasses today. And here is the third baseman, Bobby Bonilla. Started the game in right field. King left. Reynolds went to right. Bonilla is the batter. 1 on, 2 out. 78 extra base hits this year. And he corks it to deep center field. Winningham is at the track, waiting and has it. That was close, and the inning is over. No runs, 1 hit, 1 left. The Pirates have left 4 while being shut out. We'll return to Riverfront Stadium after this word from your local station. Into the bottom of the third. The Reds have been out hit 3-2, but they lead by the score of 1-0. There on the Pirate bench is Kent Biggerstaff, the trainer. He is some story. He has a math degree, but he was a trainer for 15 years in the minor leagues to try to get this job. That's how much he loves this game of baseball. And he's so tickled to be in this playoff with the Pirates. The pitcher, Doug Drabek, has retired the last 5 and pitches to Herm Winningham. Ball 1 inside. A couple of people have tried to bunt on Bonilla playing third, and it wouldn't be beyond Winningham to try the same thing. And a strike from Drabek.
It's funny about Biggerstaff is known as Biggie, the trainer of the Pirates. 15 years in the minors after a math degree. I guess he learned to count all the injuries he had.
Reagan ball puts Winningham in the hole. And Drabek has hit his stride, Tim.
Yeah, he got out of the first inning after the Reds had pushed 1 run across, but they had runners at second and third, O'Neill and Winningham. And then Eric Davis struck out, and after an intentional walk to Morris, Sable and Oliver went down.
Winningham leading it off, fouls it. And Eric Davis' story will continue through this playoff, for better or for worse. His fielding last night, he struck out with men on base here in the first, but he'll surface before this thing is over and do something else, you can bet. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Winningham, O'Neill, and Davis in this inning. Breaking ball gets him, and the 4th strikeout for Drabek, who has set down 6 in a row. There's Eric Davis moving into the on-deck circle. And at the plate in front of him is Paul O'Neill, who singled and has driven in the only run of this game. He's from Columbus. He lives in Cincinnati. He's a product of the Cincinnati organization. He has some power. Ball 1 low. Drabek allowed 15 home runs this year. Pitched a lot of innings, so that's pretty low total. Got a strike in there, 1-1. Bottom of the third, 1-0 Cincy. Two balls and a strike. O'Neill will go the other way with the ball and occasionally has power in that direction. Like that. When he flies it out for the left fielder, Bonds. We'll see a one-handed catch. 2 out. He is so casual about those catches, but he doesn't miss them.
There it is right there. He's really using the glove to shield it from the sun. Glasses down. He makes the play. Doesn't matter how you do it. It's if you do it.
And continue to do it.
And continue. And he's done it. He's going to be the MVP in the National League, in my opinion.
We have that rim of light around home plate, and strike 1 to Eric Davis.
You know, it's a funny thing when players are coming up through the minor leagues. It's not only if you do it, it's also how you do it. When you get to the big leagues, it's if you do it, not how you do it. In the minors, how counts, not up here. Stand on your head and catch the ball.
Just so long as you do it. There are 2 out. Davis fanned his first time. And he's been hot lately against Drabek. And he hits it to second to Chico. Jose Lean. And the inning is over. 8 in a row by Drabek. We've played 3 innings. Cincinnati has the game's only run.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1990 National League Championship Series is brought to you by Toyota's quality line of cars and trucks. Toyota, I love what you do for me. Oreo cookies from Nabisco. And by First Brands Corporation, makers of STP oil treatment.
A lot of folks come over this bridge from the Kentucky side to take in baseball here at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Over there is Covington, Kentucky, and in the same general area, Newport, Kentucky. And here's Barry Bonds, and there's a strike from Tom Browning. We're in the 4th inning, 1-0 in favor of the Reds. Reynolds on deck. One ball, 1 strike. Bonds struck out his first time. That's when the shadows were a bit different on the field. Didn't get a very good swing. He hammers this one foul, 1-2.
He has been nothing short of remarkable against left-handers this year. You see the 17 home runs, 58 RBIs, 17 home runs at tops in the National League, and 58 RBIs to tops in the majors.
And he corks this one foul, hit it hard.
The reason that he is so effective against left-handed pitching is that front shoulder. You can't give away with that front shoulder if you're going to hit left-handers effectively, and he keeps it locked in.
1-2. 2-2, just missed. Pirates have had men on base in every inning and have left 4 and have lost 2 runners, so it's been a difficult game for them. Fly ball into left field. Davis glasses down, got a late jump, but makes the catch, 1 out. He didn't see that ball at all when it first came off the bat.
If you're going to get Barry Bonds out and you're a left-handed pitcher, you better do it with the pitch and not depend on a flaw in the technique of Bonds. You see the front shoulder? And he hit it about 310 feet down into the position in left field. Last night, he sent Billy Hatcher to the wall against Norm Charlton, another left-hander. He does not give an inch against left-handed pitching. What is that? Look at this.
Cangelosi doing
rally
balancing
cap?
act.
Rally cap, maybe. Having a ball.
Ball 1 to R.J. Reynolds, hitting for the first time today. He's a switch hitter. He replaced Jeff King in the lineup. Went to right field. Bonilla came into third. R.J. takes it low. That's ball 2. Browning hasn't induced a ground ball put out all afternoon. Foul ball makes it 2-1. 6 outs in the air. A couple of runners picked off. No ground outs. That typifies his pitching.
Fly ball pitcher. He is the consummate fly ball pitcher. As a matter of fact, he's thrown more fly balls than anybody in the major leagues. Fly ball outs this year.
With 1 out, Reynolds looks at strike 2. Reynolds, a former Dodger. Hits the ball to center field, and Winningham goes back and ahead.
And yet another fly ball out. This will give you an idea of how much of a fly ball pitcher Tom Browning is. He leads the major leagues in fly ball outs. And the reason for that is he doesn't throw a sinker. He holds the ball across seams and depends on velocity with the fastball to get you out and not on movement. Guys with movement, the ball's going down in the strike zone and the hitter has a tendency to hit the top half of the ball. Not so Browning. They hit the bottom half of the ball and the ball goes up.
Up she goes.
Yep.
Here's Don Slaught, fly to right his first time. Hits the ball in the air again. This is monotonous. Larkin is there. That's 5 in a row by Browning. Down go the Pirates. They still trail. Bottom of the 4th, 1-0. We're on the Ohio River, down by the Ohio, and in Riverfront Stadium. We're on this riverboat. And In the Cincinnati dugout is Luis Quiñones con un saludo para las Islas del Encanto en Puerto Rico. Quiñones is from Ponce, Puerto Rico, and he says hello to the folks back home in Encanto. The leadoff batter is Hal Morris. Strike one. This telecast is being seen in more than 40 countries. We're happy you're with us on CBS. From Munster, Indiana, Hal Morris. He's given a walk his first time and hit him. Doug Drabek had retired 8 in a row, but he hits Hal Morris.
I think he might have an argument here. Jim Leland is trying to get home plate umpire John McSherry to get help from third base umpire Jerry Crawford. Hal Morris squaring around, and the fact that he squared around brought the knee into place to where the ball hit him.
And he really stepped up out of the batter's box.
There. So he's technically out of the batter's box right there when the ball hit him. He's in fair territory.
And Sabo is up, a hit and run and a foul. The Reds leading 1-0. Start the runner.
Watch again how Hal Morris steps up in fair territory, and then the ball hits him. See, he's in fair territory.
Certainly is.
You see the line right there, the first base line. Hal Morris is standing on the first base line with his toe clearly in fair territory. So the Reds got a break there.
Sabo hit into a fielder's choice by way of the pitcher with the bases loaded and 1 out in the first. So he's 0 for 1 and 1 for 5 in the series. Leadoff man is on for the Reds. They have only 2 hits. Breaking ball sinks low, 1-1.
Nothing inside to Chris Sabo. That's the Pirates' philosophy. 1 hit on a breaking ball last night, but they have been feeding him a steady diet of breaking balls.
Leadoff man is on. And Drabek steps off. First base coach for Cincinnati is a fellow with a wonderful baseball player, Tony Perez. Lead by the runner, and ball low, ball 2, 2-1. There's Tony. He'll be eligible for the Hall of Fame come 1992, and probably will make it.
After the 1991 season, the voting held in late December, early January. Pete Rose and Tom Seaver also.
That'll be an interesting time. 2-1 to Sabo. Will they start the runner again? Drabek thought so, stepped off.
You would certainly think so. With a hit and run on the first pitch, now you're in a situation where it would be very dangerous to pitch out and run the count to 3-1. An ideal hit and run situation.
2 balls and a strike to count to Sabo. Runner not going. And a fly ball to deep left center, and Van Slyke is there at the track and has it for the out as the ball hung up. Van Slyke got it back in a hurry. That's the first out of the inning. So he hit it to the deep part of the ballpark. Hal Morris still at first with 1 out. Sabo tried to up the lead. It's still 1-0 Cincinnati here in the 4th. Lou Piniella told us before the game he's going to be more aggressive today and start those runners. And he's been doing it.
Lou Piniella, Rookie of the Year in the American League with Kansas City back in 1969.
1 on, 1 out. The batter, Joe Oliver. Foul ball. Say one thing about Piniella. He can get out there and argue about, well, quicker than any other manager I've ever seen.
Rather quickly. Another thing about Lou, we were talking about his playing career. He actually was a part of 3 organizations before he won the Rookie of the Year award. 1 at bat with Baltimore in '64, 5 at bats with Cleveland in '68, and then he was drafted by the Seattle Pilots in '69 and traded that spring.
Here's the double play ball perhaps to Bonilla out at second, and no throw on a good play by Hal Morris. He certainly broke up the double play. Bonilla was a little bit too slow getting the ball to Chico Lean at second base, I think.
Yeah, a little tentative, and it's the type of tentativeness that you can understand. I mean, Bobby's only played 14 games at third this year, and he gives a good throw to Lean, a little late, and Morris takes advantage of it.
Morris looked like Will Clark going into second base.
Will Clark rumbling into Barry Larkin earlier this year, the last time the Giants were into town. Controversial slide.
Duncan's a batter and a strike. You know, he used to be murder on those with Bill Madlock. He knocked more second baseman cuckoo than anybody during his playing career. Duncan grounded to short his first time. Now Morris kept the inning going by breaking up that double play. There are 2 out. Duncan hits it to short. Bell to Lean. The inning is over. A hit batsman, a man left. The Reds have left 4. We've played 4. The Reds lead it 1-0. Going to the 5th inning. Let's sum it up for you. Tom Browning gave up 2 base hits to start the game, but he's held the Pirates scoreless. He has allowed 2 base hits, or 3 base hits, and he's walked 3. And then Paul O'Neill's single homer run in the 1st inning. And that's the only run of this game. The National League president, he doesn't care who wins, is Bill White.
William DeCova White.
Went to college here in Ohio at Hiram College. Getting a little gray in the temples there, isn't he?
There's nothing wrong with that.
Tom Browning pitches to Jose Lean, and strike 1. Lean was trying to hit that ball hard to left. He walked his first time up. It's from Dorado, Puerto Rico. It's a foul back here. That's his stroke to the opposite field. Strike 2. He's batting in the number 8 spot. Ball 1. 1-2.
The philosophy with hitters like Jose Lean, don't throw them breaking balls they can handle. That, in effect, speeds their bat head up. Keep pouring them the fastball. Play them that way. Winningham and Centers over toward right center. O'Neill shallow toward the line and right.
That ball is popped foul. 2-2.
Guy like Chico Lean, he is a remarkable athlete, but he's not strong, and for that reason you got to wear him down.
He's leading off in the 5th with his club, the Pirates, trailing 1-0. He does pull the ball and hits it into deep left field. Might ride out of here. We are tied on the home run by Lean.
Shocking.
Tom Browning allows his 25th home run of the year, and we're tied 1-1 in the 5th.
It was Jose Lean who wore down Tom Browning. Only 1 home run this year for Jose Lean. 1. And it was on a breaking ball.
That's what you said. Don't throw him one.
And that was a fastball from Browning. But Lean just was looking for it. Got the bat head out. Only 4 home runs in his major league career. Make that 5 with this year's. And I mean, he juices this ball.
And it's a foul ball. Strike 2 to Drebeck. We are tied 1-1 here in the 5th. But the Pirates didn't expect that.
Neither did the Reds. Neither did we. And neither did he.
Ball low.
And neither did he.
I remember what you said. Drebeck hits a foul ball, and it's chased by Oliver, and he makes the catch. That's the first out. Just before Jose Lean came up, Tim McCarver said if he hits the ball to the left of second base, dinner is on me.
That is correct. That counts. Absolutely. I said if he pulls a fastball to the left side, obviously to the left side, dinner's on me tonight. You can book it.
Carmelo Martinez.
Why did I say that?
Why did you say that? Carmelo Martinez talking with Jose Lean. 1 out in the inning. And Browning will pitch to the leadoff man, Gary Reedus, who's been on base twice with a single and a walk. Had a home run. Quieted this crowd at Riverfront Stadium. Ball 1 from Browning.
You mentioned earlier that the Pittsburgh Pirates were loose, and are they ever? Like they do at Wrigley Field, the ball was thrown back on onto the field when Lean hit it out. He hit so few home runs. Mike LaValliere asked for the ball, and I think they're going to present it to Lean. Look at him. They love it.
One out here in the inning. Reedus the batter. Ball 2, 2-1. Reedus singled in the first to no avail. Walked in the third. Was out stealing. He's a lot like Lean. He'll spray the ball around and every once in a while try to pull it. He hits it high in the air to center field. Winningham is there for the second out.
Here we talked about the fan throwing the ball back. Mike LaValliere asked for the ball. Look at this, just like in Wrigley Field. The Cub fans, they throw it back. Look at LaValliere, he wants the ball. Look at Ray Miller. All right. Mike's going to present the ball to Chico Lean. Nice touch. Nope, he's not. Uh-oh. I wonder what they're going to do with that ball.
They're going to sell it at an auction. They're 2 out, and Jay Bell hits the ball high in the air to the right side for Hal Morris. And after the home run, a 1-2-3 inning. Now we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. Pitcher will lead it off. The Reds and Pirates tied 1-1.
Jose Lean with his first playoff home run, only a second home run to make it 1-1. Snake eyes. Watch his eyes. And their hands.
And the tying run here in the top of the 5th. And now Browning leads off in the bottom of the inning. Tried to bunt his way on. Strike 1 against Drabek. Drabek has allowed only 2 hits, and both of those in the first inning. This is what happened to Cincinnati last night. Got 3 runs in the first and only 2 hits the rest of the way. A ball to Browning, 1-1. Drabek, probable Cy Young Award winner in the National League with 22 wins this year. And a chopper foul by Browning puts him in the hole.
Doug Drabek and his wife Christy certainly enjoying their time at Pittsburgh. They'll enjoy it a lot more when he's named the Cy Young winner come November.
2 balls, 2 strikes. So we have our own soap opera going on here with Drabek on the mound and his wife with her fingers crossed watching the action. Good play by Lean. Boy, he has some range, the best in the National League for sure, and probably the best in baseball at second base.
The only other second baseman that can compete and compare with Lean to Roberto Alomar of the Padres. Lean doesn't have as strong an arm, but possibly a step or 2 more with his range. Tremendous range to his left and right, and he makes this play look relatively easy.
Billy Ripken over in the American League compares with Lean. Of course, Sandberg is not to be ignored. Here is a strike call to Barry Larkin. Larkin has walked, stolen a base, scored a run, and he's 0 for 1. And he's hit Drabek well during his career. And a breaking ball goes low, 1-1. The Reds are flat again. They got a run in the first, and nothing since in the way of hits. Only a hit batsman since the first inning. And there is a base knock by Larkin with 1 out. Looked like Drabek got it up, and Larkin delivered.
The first hit since the first inning. Last night, the Reds had only 2 hits after the first inning, and Barry Larkin, their most valuable player this year, as voted on by the Reds, is on, and certainly you can look for him to run. 30 stolen bases on the season and 2 here in the playoffs. We'll see if Jim Leland has Don Slaught pitch out here.
Slaught doing the catching. LaValliere started last night. Larkin takes his lead. Reedus holds against him. The batter, Herm Winningham. Graybeck steps off.
Both bases that have been stolen by Larkin, both on the first pitch. You see Slaught looking to the dugout, trying to see if Jim Leland wants him to pitch out.
Winningham, the batter. And a further delay by Graybeck. Winningham singled his first time up and then fanned in the third. Here you see pitcher, runner, first baseman. Larkin not going, and Winningham showed a bunt and took a strike. There is one out in this inning. Jim Leland. Don Slaught. Looking at Leland. Leland hiding in the corner. One on, one out. Winningham hits one to second, and Lean goes to second. That's the only play, and Larkin really went after the shortstop. Hunter at first, 2 out. Lean knew they weren't going to get 2, so he took his time and got the lead man. But the Reds still have a fast runner aboard, and Paul O'Neill at the plate. Larkin back to the bench. Paul O'Neill has driven in the only Cincinnati run. He did so in the first with a base hit. Then he stole a base. He's 1 for 2. Bottom of the 5th. Red fans don't like the way it's going. They're down 1 game and have a real tussle here. And Larkin pays attention to Winningham by stepping off. Excuse me, Graybeck. Andy Van Slyke very deep in center. Runner at first, 2 out. There he goes. Off-speed pitch, and because of that, he stole the base.
That curveball certainly added to the fact the curveball is slower, obviously. Slower than the fastball of the slider, and that certainly added to Winningham getting an extra step or 2. But if you're a catcher, you can't let speed at first base be decided when you're calling a game. You got to go after the hitter, especially with 2 outs.
O'Neill could put the Reds back on top, and he fouls it to make it 1-1.
Too many catchers rely on only the fastball with the fast runner at first base, and often they don't have a chance to catch the fastball. So Slaught going with a curve, it was a strike, and Winningham is in there.
Second base umpire, Dutch Reddard, has been very busy down there.
To sew it up, if you're a catcher, you can't call for all fastballs in an effort to throw the runner out. You got to go after the hitter, again, especially with 2 outs.
There are 2 out and a 1-1 pitch. O'Neill hits it to left field pretty well. Bonds it back at the track. Up against, and the Reds lead. It's a double for O'Neill, who's driven in both runs.
You brought it up earlier, Jack, about the power that Paul O'Neill has to the opposite field. Barry Bonds back. He has some problems, it appears, with the sun. And then he looked like he was trying to make the catch a la Lynn Swan. But a double for Paul O'Neill, and the Reds retake the lead.
Now they have Eric Davis up, and these fans are waiting for him to deliver a telling blow. Close. Just cut back. Graybeck wants to argue about it. Graybeck leaped in the air off the mound.
1 pick off already at second base. A big one by Browning in the first inning, and he was indeed safe, it looked to me. You thought he was out.
I was thinking that if Lean had gone to the base with the glove, rather than try to tag the foot coming in, he'd have got him. Eric Davis, a fly ball that'll end it to Van Slyke if the sun doesn't bother him. The inning is over, but the Reds have the lead. Van Slyke, Bonilla, and Bonds coming up, and after 5, Cincinnati 2-1 will return to Riverfront Stadium after this word from your local station.
We started off the program today by telling you about Eric Davis last night misjudging a fly ball. Well, this ball wasn't misjudged. Barry Bonds playing a shallow left field, and that ball just didn't have enough hang time for him to get under it, and the Reds take the lead. The Nasty Boys are ready. Rob Dibble with the ball in his hand, Norm Charlton to his left.
And we're getting into Cincinnati bullpen time, although we're only in the 6th inning. Tom Browning is still pitching, and Andy Van Slyke is first up. Van Slyke is flying to right, popped to short, and the Pirates trail 2-1. Hit that ball hard, and O'Neill is after it. Can't play it for the out, and Van Slyke hangs up at first. Leadoff single, and O'Neill was fortunate to knock that ball down. He got a little too close to it.
We talked about how hitters were having problems earlier. That could have shifted to the outfield. Paul O'Neill didn't appear to be picking this ball up quickly, but he does knock it down, and his quick recovery holds Van Slyke to a single.
And there are some wet spots out there in that outfield, right in the right field corner, where the sun hasn't been shining. And now Bonilla takes ball 1 high. He's 0 for 2, and here come the Pirates. They trail 2-1. Van Slyke has stolen 14 bases this year, and Bonilla hits the ball over Larkin's head. Here come the Pirates. Van Slyke stops at second. But Browning gives up 2 more hits here in the 6th. These Pirates keep coming after you. Rob Dibble cranks it up in a hurry in the bullpen. He gets ready in a big hurry. They tell me, Tim, that the first time he throws the ball out in the bullpen, it's about 90 miles an hour.
Yeah.
How'd you like to be his neighbor and say, hey, throw me that ball? It'd take your head off. The batter is Barry Bonds, so Browning will stay in at least to pitch to Bonds, who's 0 for 2. He had a good swing of that one.
This is normally a double play situation, of course, but Browning, as we talked about earlier, has thrown only 6 double play ground balls this year. Barry Bonds can fly also, so unless he hits it sharply to a middle infielder, you probably won't see a double play here.
So this inning has the makings of something good for Pittsburgh. And Slyke single. So did Bonilla. First hit for each. And Bonds cracks it high in the air to right, and Van Slyke will tag at second. There's the catch, and the runner moves on to third base, and he's out! That's a double play. And the other man stayed at first, and that might have been a mistake. When you're behind in the game.
We talked about a double play situation, but who would have thought that this is how the double play occurred? Paul O'Neill on a brilliant throw to third to nail Andy Van Slyke. And you know why Bonilla stopped at first and didn't go? Because of the fake by Barry Larkin. Everybody did the right thing. O'Neill hit the cutoff man. Larkin in the right position. Quick tag by Sabo.
That really changed this inning and this game. A wonderful throw by Paul O'Neill. And remember the play earlier when he knocked the ball down to hold Van Slyke to the single. And Now R.J. Reynolds, 0 for 1, is up with a runner at first, 2 out. And the crowd love that. Ball 1 from Browning. Now the bullpen is quiet. And they count on Browning to get them out of this 6th inning, with the Reds leading 2-1. Reynolds hits a foul, 1-1. Browning threw a lot of pitches early in this game. He had men on base in the first 3 innings. And Slick moved out of the dugout to get some of the dirt off his uniform. He's a good runner, and that's why it took such a magnificent throw to get him. Bonilla's at first. 2 balls and a strike.
And once again, the defensive outfield of the Cincinnati Reds rises to the occasion. They led the major leagues in assists this year, and that is the 2nd assist by Paul O'Neill in the league championship series. He had one last night.
There's a strike, 2-2. And O'Neill has driven in both runs for the Reds, so he's had a day.
Cincinnati outfield this year with 47 assists and only 10 errors. That also is the lowest in either league.
2-2. Low. Now the runner will go from first. Tim McCarver told that to Lou Piniella about how good his outfield was statistically, and Piniella was surprised. He didn't know that. We are. Now the runner Bonilla will go, and they hold against him at first base. That's unusual too, especially with Bonilla the run. Runner going. Strike 3, and the Reds still lead. Browning gets his 3rd strikeout. No runs, 2 hits, a double play, 1 left. Pirates have left 5. They trail 2-1.
This is just a brilliantly executed double play in harmony with Barry Larkin, the shortstop, acting as the cutoff man. The throw is low enough right there that Larkin could cut the ball. That holds Bonilla at first, and the throw carrying on to Sabo, and Van Slyke's a dead duck at 3rd. Well, that is baseball at its finest right there.
Certainly was. And here's a foul ball by Hal Morris as we start the home half of the 6th with the Reds on top. 2-1. Morris has been given a walk and hit by a pitch. Pirates have out-hit Cincinnati 6-4. And another foul. You know how many runners the Pirates have lost? They had 1 picked off, 1 out stealing, and 1 doubled up. They've lost 3. They've left 5. Been a tough game for them. Graybeck still pitching. He's allowed only 4 hits. Morris laid off and held up. It's 1-2.
Talking about hitting the cutoff man, you would be amazed at the major league outfielders who don't hit the cutoff man. They don't work on it, and they don't even know why you should do it. It's a fact.
Inside to Morris, 2-2.
So much of a lack of fundamental play with the outfielders in particular in the major leagues today that if you're a baseball purist, you don't like it at all, and it's getting worse too. Outfield play as far as fundamentals are concerned.
Ball 3. Well, expansion will take care of that.
Right. You know, the major leagues is more of a training ground nowadays. Guys are coming up younger. It's not necessarily an indictment on the farm system, but an indictment on the length of stay that guys are in the minor leagues. They don't learn how to play the game properly.
3-2 pitch is bounced to first. It is a fair ball and out. Reedus made the unassisted put out, and the crowd thought the ball was foul. There's one gone. Well, Sunday NFL action on CBS Sports starting at 12:30 Eastern with the last word before kickoff. The NFL today, the feature game, black and blue get together, the Packers and the Bears. Others see the Lions and the Vikings, the Bucks, Buccaneers and Cowboys, the Saints and Falcons, or the 49ers and Houston Oilers. That'll be a good one too. Check your local listing for the NFL on CBS Sunday. It starts at 12:30. Here's a fly ball into left, hit by Sabo. Bonds in the corner, and he has it for the second out.
Barry Bonds saying that he can't see the ball. He's having a tough time, the ball coming out of the shadows into the sunlight. All types of problems in left field. And in center field, the right fielder does have protection out there. Boy, this is a tough sun field now.
Looks like we might get Dibble in the 7th inning. Meanwhile, Joe Oliver bats, and he is 0 for 2. Oliver could hit the long ball occasionally. Takes the ball high. He has hit 8 home runs this season. And we mentioned before the way he persevered in the minor leagues. Started in '83, didn't get up to the Reds till last year, and they like him now. And a big full swing, but a foul, 1-1. 2-4-0 for Cincinnati, and O'Neill has driven in both runs. The Pirates have out-hit Cincinnati. They have 1 run, 6 hits, no errors, but they've left 5 runners and lost 3. 2 out here. Breaking pitch, a strike, 1-2. The Reds can bounce back here today and beat Drabek. Well, they're right back in the thick of things after losing to Bob Walk. He reaches for it and stays alive. 1-2. Base is empty behind Drabek. 2 out. Low runs it to 2-2. Paul O'Neill had an assist last night, an assist today. He's driven in both runs today, and he has 3 RBIs in this brief playoff to this point. Oliver takes it low, 3-2.
And who would have thought it? Paul O'Neill started out with as bad a September as any player in the National League. He picked it up. He was 9 for his last 23. But he has really shined in these 2 games, no question.
A 3-2 pitch. Corks it to left field, and here comes Van Slyke. And on the move, he makes the catch. Down in order, Cincinnati after 6. The Reds lead it 2-1. Tom Browning is finished for the day. He could be the winner. He can't lose. He leaves with a score, 2-1, 7th inning. And Rob Dibble takes over. One of the nasty boys comes in from the bullpen. 8-3, 11 saves. Big strikeout man. And we are going to have a pinch hitter to take him on. Don Slaught is due to lead off, the right-handed hitting catcher for the Pirates. But Wally Backman is going to bat for him.
Remember Jim Leland with only 14 position players, 11 pitchers. So I would imagine he will hit for Drabek also.
First pitch is a ball.
And the probable hitter would be Mike LaValliere. You don't like to waste two batters. You don't want to have Backman pinch hit and then Backman sit on the bench.
Tough to pitch to Backman at times. He fouls it away. Sometimes all you can do is chop at that pitch. He throws so darn hard. Wally Backman, former Met, with the Twins for a period of time. Started the game last night. We foul that one back. 1-2. Sometimes you see a pitch from Dibble that from location looks hittable, but with regard to the velocity, you can't hit it.
Yeah, he throws to the fat part of the plate. In the Pirate bullpen, by the way, the right-hander Landrum, Bill Landrum, Bob Kipper, the left-hander.
2-1, the Reds lead, 7th inning, nobody on or out. 2-2. Here's Doug Drabek. He is apparently finished for the day. Gave only 4 hits. We'll see what the situation is when it comes time for the pitcher to bat here. He's due to bat 3rd in the 7th. And Backman couldn't catch up with it. James Brown is lurking around the ballpark. What do you have, JB?
All right, Jack, well, on a note of incentive that each of the ball players are talking about bringing into this game to play inspired by, Rob Dibble says, make no mistake about it, it's still Pete Rose, the ex-Reds manager. He said he talked with Pete Rose's wife recently, wanted her to relay the message to him. He's playing hard. If he does well, he will make that point known at the end of the series. Let's get back upstairs to Jack and Tim.
And Jose Lean. He pops the ball foul, and Morris cannot get it. Strike one. Lean, who walked his first time, homered in the 5th inning. That tied the game 1-1. So Backman is struck out by Dibble.
Well, what Jim Leland could do here, he might not be able to pitch to Drabek, or may not allow Drabek to hit unless it's 2 out, nobody on. Then Drabek hits, I think.
Lean laid off, 1-1.
With Gary Reedus, the leadoff hitter, what he might do is have Mike LaValliere bat for Reedus. He'd be in the game anyway. And then Wally Backman would go in the game at 3rd base, and Jeff King would move to 1st. Kind of thinking ahead if 4 hitters hit this inning.
Slow roller. This will be close. Larkin, good play. Got it. 2 out. It was close because Lean can get down the line, and that was a slow roller. And a nasty little hop right at the end for Larkin to deal with.
I said Jeff King. Of course, Bobby Bonilla was over there. So it'd be Bobby Bonilla at 1st base, Wally Backman at 3rd. And this hop, a nasty hop. A pitch from one of the nasty boys, a nasty hop, huh? Drabek's hitting.
You wouldn't think you stand much of a chance against Big Dibble. But Drabek hit a home run this year. He's had 18 hits. And was a good hitter in September. And Dibble is saying here, big boy from Texas, see what you can do. And Randy Myers gets one. 2 out, nothing shaking. 2-1 Cincinnati. 7th inning. Well, he made contact. Larkin out. He wants it. Has it. The inning's over. Now it's 7th inning stretch time, and the Cincinnati fans are enjoying it. They lead 2-1. Here's our line score, bottom of the 7th. Reds leading 2-1, and a shot from the Goodyear Blimp America. Pilot is Captain Don McDuff of Anson, Texas. Saw the Ohio River, which travels on down to join the Mississippi. There's Hall of Famer Johnny Bench, broadcasting for CBS Radio with John Rooney and Jerry Coleman. Just calling home to see how that baby boy is of his.
What a beautiful child. Man.
Mariano Duncan misses the breaking ball from Drabek. He's 0 for 2. Mike LaValliere, Spanky, takes over behind the dish for the Buccaneers. One and one.
I guess the reason that LaValliere didn't pinch hit for Don Slaught, that way you don't waste Backman. LaValliere doesn't run that well. So Jim Leland trying to get Backman up there to get on base.
Here's the strike from Drabek.
And then he runs much better than LaValliere. It kind of backfired, and he ends up using 2 players for 1 position.
And we pointed out the Pirates have 11 pitchers and only 14 position players, and the Reds have only 9 pitchers. Duncan stays alive, 1 and 2. In the Pirate bullpen, Kipper the left-hander, Landrum the right-hander. Bob Kipper last night was on the bench. He said that they're going to try to pick Bonds off of 1st, and then Sid Bream is going to hit one out of the park. He said he's going to throw 10 pickoff throws over there.
Unbelievable.
Here the ball in the dirt, strike 3. LaValliere will throw him out. A strikeout and 2-3. And actually there were 9 pickoff throws over to 1st, and then the home run by Bream, the telling blow last night.
That story was told to us by Rich Donnelly, the bullpen coach. How about that, though? Bob Kipper predicting the Bream home run after saying that Rijo's going to throw over 10 times.
Hey, they're going to leave Dibble in, and Tim is going to explain why. He will bat, and then we'll see what happens in the top of the 8th inning.
Yeah, it's a rare at bat for Dibble. But if he does start the top of the 8th inning and Jim Leland elects to pinch hit for Gary Reedus with Sid Bream, that's when you bring in Randy Myers.
Dibble is 0 for 7, strike 1.
Of course, Dibble handles left-handers and right-handers effectively, but Lou Piniella could be thinking like that if he elects to go to Randy Myers in the 8th inning, because Gary Reedus, the right-handed hitter, is scheduled to lead off.
That will be the top of the order for Pittsburgh. Dibble, strike 2.
How good a hitter is Rob Dibble? Not too bad.
But he sure makes some low averages come about for his opponents.
He does indeed.
He is tops in the National League among all relievers. Drabek's going to get him. He got him with a breaking ball. That's against the union rules. You're out, Rob. You only get 3. He didn't know that.
He didn't hit a lot.
He didn't know when you're batting you only get 3. When you're pitching, he knows you only get 3. Drabek fan Duncan. Now he gets Dibble. And he has struck out a half a dozen. And he knows that his batting is not picturesque. But he'll go to the mound at the top of the 8th. Cincinnati's leading 2-1. These Reds are double tough when they get you late in the game and they have the lead. Drabek will pitch to Larkin. He's 1 for 2 plus a walk and a strike. A great effort by Drabek today. Gave up a run driven in by O'Neill in the first. Here's a ground ball to short. Jay Bell scoops it up. Down go the Reds in the 7th. And after 7 innings, Cincinnati 2 and the Pirates 1.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1990 National League Championship Series is brought to you by Buick, the new symbol for quality in America. Pert Plus Shampoo Plus Complete Conditioner in 1, so you just wash and go. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Remember, know when to say when.
The wheels are going to spin here in the 8th inning. Cincinnati has a 2-1 lead, and Sid Bream will bat for Gary Reedus. As soon as he is announced by the PA announcer, he is officially in the game. Now look at the Cincinnati dugout and see if Stan Williams emerges, or are they going to leave Dibble in there?
You can go either way on this. I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Piniella make the move here. He'll send Stan Williams, but Williams appears to be in the dugout. So Randy Myers is probably warming up for the big 3, Van Slyke, Bonilla, and Bonds.
So Dibble, who retired the side in the 7th, pitches to Bream, who loves that high fastball. That was a low fastball, strike 1. Sid told us before the game that was the biggest thrill of his baseball career, the home run last night. And he swung right through it, strike 2. And Dibble kept the ball down again. And he wasted one high and away. Two and two to the leadoff man in the 8th. Dibble's been known to walk some people, but then he turns right around usually and gets the strikeout. 2 and 2. And Bream spoiled it in the 4th inning last night. 1 on, 2 out. Sid Bream hit the home run that tied the game. And the Pirates got a run in the 7th. And won it 4-3. That was the big hit last night. 2-2 here. 3 and 2.
That was after 9 pickoff throws by Jose Rio. Bob Kipper predicted 10, so Bream should give an assist to Bob Kipper, don't you think?
He should. Dibble causes the fans to squirm here. There's Rijo, who lost it last night. No, Charlton was the loser. 3-2, and he struck him out. Second strikeout for Dibble. That was 98 miles an hour. No wonder Bream looked so late.
High gas right here to Sid Bream. It may have been a little high, but you don't have that much time to decide whether it's a strike or a ball. Dibble much more effective when that ball's upstairs. His high fastball, almost impossible. You can't get on top of it.
Dave Bell, more high gas. Gas is high these days, and Dibble is singing it in there. 2-1, the Reds lead, top of the 8th.
Naturally.
And Dibble would like to keep Randy Myers out there in the corner. He loves to finish games. Doesn't get many chances. That one went low. That's ball 2. There's Randy Myers, who ordinarily pulls the curtain. He's a refreshing character.
Hey, you know, when they call them nasty boys, that's their image and everything. They're not that nasty. That's all for play. They have the big nasty boys poster they're selling around downtown. Really pretty nice guys until they put their uniforms on. But Randy Myers, kind of nice on and off the field.
On 2-0. Strike, a high strike, 2-1. Nate Bell has whacked 7 home runs this year. But Dibble, with that great stuff, can afford to challenge batters and say, here. 3-1. And after Bell, you're getting around to the big fellas in the Pittsburgh lineup. Speaking of Pittsburgh, we'll be there come Monday afternoon after the first 2 games of the American League Championship Series. Dibble has to throw a strike or put the tying run on. He walked him. Tonight on CBS, after we all know the outcome of this one, Evening Shade and then Baghdad Cafe. And then we have a premiere movie on this network, Children of the Bride. Tonight on CBS. A walk by Dibble brings Stan Williams out there. And with Van Slyke coming up, we're most likely to get Randy Myers. Dibble got the side out in the 7th and gives a 1-out walk here in the 8th. He leaves with the Reds leading 2-1.
Back here at Riverfront Stadium, top of the 8th with the Reds on top 2-1 as Randy Myers takes the mound. You know, I talked to Randy Myers 2 days ago. His teammates say, JB, he's trying to tell you that he's intense. He's flat out wacky. But Randy Myers did say, JB, this is exactly the kind of situation I want to be in with a 1-run lead. I love the pressure. I said, but you have to perspire to some degree. He says perspiration and pressure is when you're a machinist, as I was before playing baseball, working with equipment that splits hairs in equal parts 20 ways. That's pressure. This is fun. Let's go back upstairs to Jack and Tim.
He's got it. He's got some pressure here and fun. Rob Dibble is on the bench after pitching an inning and a third. One of the reasons they have to take him out is because you can run on him. But they bring in the left-hander who has a good look at the runner, who is Bell.
Good look, poor move, however.
Van Slyke hits it high in the air, and that should be the 2nd out. Winningham camps under it and has it for the 2nd out. So Myers did his job on Van Slyke to the delight of Lou Piniella. Van Slyke 1 for 4. These Pirates have left 5, lost 3 runners, and hit into a double play.
One thing about Randy Myers, you're talking, he is obviously left-handed. Looking at the runner, he doesn't need a good move because he doesn't have a high leg kick for a power pitcher. He gets the ball home rapidly. He rarely throws to first base. No chance of Bell running here with Bonilla batting, however.
Pirates aren't through yet. They have Bonilla. There's ball 1. Bonilla, who whacked 32 home runs this year, at the plate. And he's 5 out of 15 against Myers during his career. And he skies that one to Winningham. Looks like the Reds still have the lead. They do. The Pirates have left 6. 2-1 Cincinnati leading as they bat in the bottom of the 8th inning.
This game summary is sponsored by Budweiser.
Bottom of the 8th inning, and let's look at what has transpired. Jose Lean tied the game with a leadoff home run in the 5th inning. The Reds had scored in the 1st, but then in the bottom of the 5th, Paul O'Neill put the Reds back on top 2-1, and that's where we are. And still pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates is Doug Drabek against the number 2 hitter in the lineup, Herm Winningham. And he corks it into right field. He'll get a couple. He may think about 3. O'Neill, Reynolds plays it well. It's a leadoff double. Second hit of the day for Winningham. Also has a stolen base.
After he was on first base on that fielder's choice, he eventually scored on the double by Paul O'Neill. So a fine afternoon for Herm Winningham. All Reynolds can do is get it as quickly back into the infield as he can. And now it's going to be interesting to see what Lou Piniella has Paul O'Neill do with Davis and Morris on deck. I hit away here.
Well, O'Neill, yeah, I think I would. I'm sure I would. O'Neill has driven in both runs so far. And he has a chance for another if they let him swing. And he drove in a run last night, and he's had 2 assists while playing right field. So he's 3 for 3 with runners on base in this series. So they probably won't take the bat out of his hands and have him bunt. That was the 5th Cincinnati hit against Drabek. He was struck out 6, hit 1, walked 1 intensely, and 2 total. Paul O'Neill. He wants to pull this ball so that even if he doesn't drive in the run, he moves Winningham to 3rd. Drabek knows that. Runner at second, nobody out. O'Neill hit it hard, but foul. He's hot today. He was worried about getting some playing time in this series because he hadn't been hitting well until the very end of September. And Piniella said, I want him to start driving in some runs. There's Jim Leland. He leads 1-0, but he's in trouble today. Gets away from LaValliere, but the runner cannot advance. It's 2 balls and a strike. Well, the American Leaguers are resting up. Oakland has been resting. And Boston nailed it down, and they get a little respite. But tomorrow night on CBS, 8 o'clock Eastern, Game 1, Roger Clemens in Boston, Dave Stewart and Oakland.
To have a manager who is a former good hitter. Lou Piniella, working with Paul O'Neill, lowered his hands about 6 inches. He wanted a little more lift, and has he ever gotten it?
It's tough to get a shot of Piniella when he's standing still. He's a mover.
You need a mobile cam for it.
Runner on second base. Nobody out. 3-1 to Paul O'Neill. Right-handed batter next, even though it is Eric Davis. Let's see how Drabek approaches this. LaValliere goes to the hill to make certain that he and Drabek are thinking the same thing.
It's interesting to see Drabek with his hand over his mouth. Bill Landrum, the right-hander. Bob Kipper, the left-hander. Now Lou Piniella out to talk to Eric Davis. How about this? Don't imagine Davis is going to be bunting if O'Neill gets on.
Oh, no.
No sacrifices this year. Last sacrifice bunt by Eric Davis, September 22nd, 1985.
He must have been hurt.
That's right. Or young.
3-1. 3-2 on a breaking ball with Winningham at second and nobody out.
Big breaking ball and a good pitch right here. May have been out of the strike zone, but O'Neill thought it was a good pitch to hit. Wonder if he'll get another one.
Got him with another breaking ball on 3-2, and the runner stays perched at second with one out. You saw Winningham looking up at the heavens. God darn it, says O'Neill. Meanwhile,
7 strikeouts for Doug Drabek. Tell you, that's what characterizes Drabek. In the hole, 3-1 with nobody out, and he comes back with 2 curveballs to get O'Neill.
O'Neill had driven in 2 runs but failed this trip. And these Cincinnati people want something out of Eric Davis. He has struck out, grounded out, flied out. He's 1 for 6. Winningham is a threat to do some running, so they'll keep a close eye on him. Strike to Davis.
Cincinnati Reds have tried to steal third base more than any other team in the National League. However, with Davis batting, I think the chances are remote, but not Doug Drabek or Chico Lean.
Lean is doing his best to keep Winningham close to second with 1 out here in the 8th. 2-1 the Reds lead. Strike 1 to Davis. Over but low. 1-1. Trying to read the actions of Winningham down there at second base. He doesn't look like he's sincere about trying to run. Runner stealing. They've got him picked up. Tagged out. Boy, these Pirates do a lot of things right, as they did last night. And they burned the Reds' running game again. That's the second out here in the 8th.
Certainly Herm Winningham could be asked the question, why, with Eric Davis batting, would you try to steal third? But of course, Eric Davis only 1 for 6 in the 2 games. So the Reds trying to open things up a little bit, probably a little too aggressive there.
And 1 ball, 1 strike to Davis. That play went 1-5-4. There are 2 out, and it's up and in, 2-1.
It was interesting that Drabek had looked back there. Lean was there. Drabek went into his kick and then stopped and threw the ball to third base.
2-1. 2-2 on a breaking pitch. Drabek with a fine effort here today. He may end up being a loser. There's Winningham. He was tricked by Drabek. Davis 0 for 3. 0 for 4, and he fans for the second time today. 8 strikeouts for Drabek, who did wonderful work today, but could be the loser. 1 left, 6 stranded for the Reds. We've played 8. Cincinnati 2-1.
Herm Winningham certainly had a good jump from second base, but watch Drabek. The wheel, he eventually throws it initially to Bobby Bonilla, and they get him in a rundown. Good play by Doug Drabek, a very alert play.
Pirates played it extremely well last night in the victory, and even in defeat they played very well here, although they have lost some runners themselves. Well, with Barry Bonds up there and Myers pitching, this might be the game right here. Top of the 9th, strike call. Reds have been out hit, but they lead 2-1, and O'Neill has driven in both runs. Bonds with a word for the umpire, John McSherry. Bonds is 0 for 3. Strike 2. Myers came on and got the final 2 outs in the 8th inning. There's Doug Drabek. He was terrific today. 8 innings, 2 runs, 5 hits, struck out 8. Myers to the leadoff man. Wastes one high. Bonds has struck out, flied to left, flied to right. Hit 33 home runs this year. 1-2. And a little foul ball chased by Sabo in the bullpen. Couldn't get it. And how many times have you seen a play of that sort lead to something else?
Well, of course, this ball didn't have enough hang time for this to be an easy play. It was by no means an easy play. Had he made the catch, it would have been a spectacular catch. Not enough hang time for Sabo to get under it and make an easy play out of it.
There's Graybeck hoping his mates pull it out of the fire for him. He allowed 2 runs on 5 hits. Myers, the third Cincinnati hurler. 1-2 the count. The foul ball. At the conclusion of this game, Tim McCarver and I will select the Chevrolet Most Valuable Player. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 on the player's behalf to the Special Olympics. Bonds leading off in the 9th with his Pirates trailing 2-1, and it just missed outside, and the crowd groaned. It's 2-2. And Piniella wanted that call. Out of play on the foul ball by Bonds. It's still 2-2. Tim remarked earlier about the incredible record that Bonds has had against left-handed pitching this year.
But this is a different left-hander. Bonds only 2 for 19 for his career against Myers with 8 strikeouts.
Low, 3-2.
Make that 3 for 19. 8 strikeouts, however.
Well, you certainly can't say, I'm just going to lay it in there and make sure he swings, because Bonds could tie it. Up the middle, and Larkin. He got him!
What a play by Barry Larkin. That ball was bind. He has the wherewithal to get to his feet and throw out the swift Barry Bonds. Brilliant play by Barry Larkin.
These fans act as though they've already won this game, but there are 2 tough outs to go. 1 out on the top of the 9th, 2-1 Cincinnati, and R.J. Reynolds at the plate. Ball 1. Reynolds is 0 for 2 after replacing Jeff King in the lineup. He had no home runs this year. Hit pretty well against Myers this season. Switch hitter takes a strike, and it's 1-1. 2-1 the Reds lead. O'Neill drove in a run on the 1st and did it again in the 5th. Leaned hit a home run for the Pirates in the 5th. High and away to Reynolds. Myers is dealing with a seasoned performer. There's Carmelo Martinez standing. Jose Lean due to bat 4th. He's hoping to get another crack at it here. Behind on the count, 2-1. Up the middle, Larkin. Another play. Got it, 2 out.
The Barry Larkin show in the 9th inning.
James Brown told you earlier about how good he was, and you folks have seen it here today. There are 2 out. LaValliere, foul ball, strike 1. Thank you, LaValliere.
You have to have LaValliere hit here. You have no more pitchers.
Slot started. He's no longer in the game. They could bet Carmelo Martinez and catch somebody else. Strike call. Myers blowing him away. He's retired 4 in a row. lost last night, 4-3 lead, 2-1 here. 1-2. There's nothing to compare with the sounds of a baseball park. Myers trying to end it here. Outside, 2-2. Myers relishes these situations. There's Graybeck. Foul ball. Still 2-2 with 2 out and nobody on, and the Reds leading 2-1 in the top of the ninth. Next action at Pittsburgh. There's Jim Leyland. Monday afternoon. Tom Browning started this one. He'll be the winner if it stays as is. 2 balls, 2 strikes the count. 3-2. First 2 grounded out in this inning. It's a full count on LaValliere, who was quickly in the hole. 3-2 pitch. Ball 4, and the tying run is on with 2 out.
Now do you pinch run for him? Now do you pinch run for him?
They still have only 2 catchers.
Well, if you don't tie it, you can't win it anyway. Well, that pitch is right off the outside part of the plate. But of course, I guess if you felt like that, then you'd pinch hit for him.
It'll take a long one by Jose Lean to tie this game. He homered in the 5th. Ball 1. He can be a tough out, and Myers falls behind. Tying run is on, and that was the 5th walk given to Pittsburgh today.
Mike LaValliere with 2 stolen bases this year. I'd play behind him, but Morris is holding him on. Remember, Jose Lean hits primarily the other way.
You're right about that, Tim.
I'd play behind him right here.
Lean has not hit Myers well. Takes a strike. For the career 1 out of 15 for this batter against this pitcher. The Reds searching for the final out. 2-1. In case you're wondering, there's nobody in the Cincinnati bullpen. They go with this fella. Carmelo Martinez moves on deck. Will he get a chance to bat in this game? 2 balls and a strike, 2 out. Foul ball, 2-2, and again the Reds are within a strike of tying this playoff series and assuring, well, not assuring, but barring a sweep, they'd come back Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern, Game 3 between these 2. Tomorrow night, Boston and Oakland. 2-2 pitch. Foul ball out of play. Still the same. Myers and Jose Lean. 2-2. Second base. Duncan. Cincinnati wins it. We're tied a game apiece. Seen what sort of a series this is going to be. 2-5-0, 5 left Reds, 1-6-0, Pittsburgh left 7. Rounding the winner, Graybeck, a 22-game winner, a tough luck loser, a save for Randy Myers. 2-1 Reds, And they'll play again Monday in Pittsburgh. We'll be back. A very enjoyable game. 2-5-0 Cincinnati, 1-6-0 Pittsburgh. Browning over Drabek. Myers a save, leaned a home run. Pittsburgh left 7, lost 3 other runners, and Cincinnati left 5. It's a whole new ball game. We're tied at a game apiece. And James Brown is down on the playing field. JB?
All right, Jack, I'm standing between two happy guys, one who is showing it, manager Lou Piniella. Let's turn to Paul O'Neill first. 2 hits today, but the big move, I thought, that strong arm of yours nailing Van Slyke on third base.
Well, in that play, you really can't think. Well, all I was trying to keep the ball low enough to cut it so Bonilla wouldn't go to second. And I don't know, you get a little pumped up in these games. I guess you throw a little harder and run a little faster, but it was great to get out of here with at least 1 win after that tough loss last night.
Well, I'm going to ask the manager about it in a minute, but allegedly the manager here helped you to adjust your hitting position a bit, dropping your hand slightly. True or false?
It's true. He's been working with me all year, but you know, I've been trying to change things all year, trying to find it. And a game like this, you go out there, you try to, you know, forget about everything and just try to see the ball. And today it was tough with the shadows.
All right, Paul O'Neill, congratulations. Let me turn to Lou Piniella. You're smiling now, having fun. You said it was all fun, even in the pressure situations. What about when Winningham was picked off?
Well, you know, that's part of our game plan, the run. And sometimes when you run, you're going to get picked off base. He just left a little early. If he had gotten a good jump, I think he'd have stolen third off Drabek. And the way he was pitching, we like to take that base when we can.
While you ideally, of course, wanted to be up 2 games here, you go to Pittsburgh tied 1-1, in good position?
We're in good position, basically, because we played well in Pittsburgh. We won 4 out of 6 ball games over there. We got Jackson pitching we have confidence in. We got Rijo and Browning throwing the ball well. Yeah, we're in good shape.
I love you in pressure situations. Congratulations.
Thank you, James.
All right, Jack Buck and Tim McCarver will be back more from Riverfront right after this.
Though they were out hit 6-5, the Reds even up this playoff series at a game apiece, and it'll be a happier scene in this city tonight. And we thank the Goodyear folks for the wonderful pictures they have shown us of Riverfront Stadium and the environs. Our Chevrolet player of the game, well, you just heard from him, Paul O'Neill of the Cincinnati Ball Club. Chevrolet will donate $1,000 in his behalf to the Special Olympics. Funny, isn't it, Tim? The Pirates win with Walk, lose with Drabek. Cincinnati loses with Rijo, and then they win with Browning.
Well, you mentioned 7 men left on today. I don't think it was the men left on as the men that were off the bases. The pickoff, the caught stealing, and the brilliant double play started by Paul O'Neill, ended by Chris Sabo.
Final score 2-1. We're even in this playoff series. And Pat O'Brien will have time for a word or two before we wrap things up.
Pat O'Brien back in New York City recapping today's other big Cincinnati story that we've been watching for you. Bengals coach Sam Wyche was socked with a record $30,000 fine today as NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue cracked down hard in response to Wyche's refusal to admit a woman reporter to his locker room last Monday. We'll be back with some final thoughts after this. Stay with us. Before we say goodbye, a reminder that college football action continues on CBS Sports tomorrow. The second-ranked Florida State Seminoles visit the defending national champion Miami Hurricanes at the Orange Bowl. It all begins with college football today, tomorrow, at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Then tomorrow night, we'll be here to open the American League Championship Series as the world champion Oakland Athletics visit the Boston Red Sox at Fenway at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Dave Stewart slated to take the mound for the A's and Roger Clemens for the Red Sox. And so, for Jack Buck, Tim McCarver, James Brown, and Jim Cott, I'm Pat O'Brien. Good night, everybody.
CBS Sports coverage of Game 2 of the 1990 National League Championship Series has been brought to you by the new generation of Oldsmobile. Step into the future now at your Oldsmobile dealer. Extra strength Rolaids with 1,000 milligrams of fast relief. And by AT&T, the right choice.
Once again, the final score from Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati, the Reds 2 and the Pirates 1, and the series resumes Monday afternoon in Pittsburgh. You You've been watching Major League Baseball on CBS Sports, the home of the League Championship Series and the World Series. The word of the day, defense. And all tied at 1, this series moves from Riverfront to Three Rivers.